Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Amanda and I'm a 29-year-old living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I like reviewing products and experiences. But today I'm doing another finance video. I have a soft spot for personal finance and managing my money, so I'm excited to talk to you more about how I kind of keep track of all my finances every single month. So I'm going to share with you how I track my expenses in the spreadsheet that I use, as well as show you kind of like my month-end finance routine and everything that I do to track my money at the end of every month. So before we get started, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter for new video updates and notifications, and let's go ahead and begin. I am going to dive into my finance spreadsheet, and I want to point out that I did get this template originally from Millennial Money Honey, aka Katie, here on YouTube, so I will link her down in the description box below, but feel free to follow her on Instagram. She has a ton of great content related to personal finance and highly recommend it. So I did take her template. It's actually free on her website, I believe, and I tweaked it for this year. So this is actually my first year using all these different tabs and this spreadsheet template and like going through it. So I do think I might tweak it throughout the year. So hopefully next year I'll have like a more refined spreadsheet, but I'm still excited to use this, and let's dive in. I do plan to share this template for you in the description box, so check that out in case you're interested. Feel free to download it. I know a lot of you wanted to see how I do my expenses, so I'm actually going to cover that first, and then I'll dive into like my month-end routine and all the additional tabs that I fill in. So if you'd like to stay tuned for that, you can stick around for the rest of the video. So this first tab is specifically for lookups, and this is just like anything that I will use like multiple times anywhere through this spreadsheet. So as you can see, I have expense categories and things that I spend my money on. Feel free to replace it with anything that is personal for you, what you would like to spend your money on, or what you want to track as your expense categories. Feel free to do that. I also have my savings and investment categories here, like where all my money goes and where I am saving it and the investment accounts that it goes to. Also have different payment methods, so what are the credit cards or accounts that I have, so replace those with the ones that you have personally, and just to keep track of where everything is. And then income, this is where I have 9-to-5 income, but I also have income coming from different side hustles, so I kind of like to know the difference and how much money I'm getting from both. Again, this tab is completely customizable. Just add in all of your values in these specific columns, but let's start off with expenses. So I have a tab, and I use a new tab for every month personally. So I have a tab for January. It is now February, so I wanted to kind of recap January. So how I do this is I go into every credit card account and every investment or savings account that I've touched in January or in that month, and like basically copy all the transactions manually into the spreadsheet. And I know it sounds tedious, but honestly it takes like, I don't know, no more than 30-45 minutes, I guess, depending on how many transactions you have to keep track of. But I typically don't have a ton, so I know it's a manual process, but it really kind of sheds light on how much money I'm actually spending. And a lot of people say that tracking expenses and like manually, doing it in a spreadsheet or something like that, like really shows you how much money you're spending, and it kind of adds up really quickly, more quickly than we expect. So what I will do is I will log into one of my credit card accounts, and I typically do it side by side, like on my laptop, but because I'm sharing my screen, I will log on my phone app, and I will go to like the credit card statement where, it starts January 1st. So that might be a previous statement for you. So starting off with my first charge, it would be on the 2nd of January, and it counts as a shopping expense. And again, these categories come from the expense categories from that Lookups tab. And then I shopped at Lelova and paid $56, and that was to a specific credit card. Next, I did, also on the 2nd, I went grocery shopping, and I went to the Korean market and spent $40.60, same card. And then the next charge is actually on the 7th, so I'm gonna put it down here because it's kind of, I know Google Sheets has this cool functionality where you can drag and drop rows to rearrange based on, you know, chronological order, but I also have these pivot tables on the right hand side that I don't want to mess up. So I try to just leave empty rows here and there between dates just to make it easier to rearrange later. Okay, so for that, it was actually a gift, and it was for Kudo board, and I actually bought 4 of the same gift, so it was really this times 4, and I don't want to do 4 separate rows, so I'm just going to do a formula, and again, it was copy and paste this same credit card. Next, I also paid rent, and going to my checking account transactions, I paid rent on the 4th, so technically I could put it here and leave some space in between just in case for any other of my accounts I made a charge on the 3rd or 5th or 6th to fit them in the middle. So let's see, I did rent and I paid $900 and this was checking. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what it's like for me to put in my expense transactions. So let's move on to the right hand side because I didn't really give you an overview of that. So I like to track my savings and income. So here I'll track like where my money goes to, like savings and investments accounts. So, you know, this includes my HSA, my 401k, and my ESPP or anything like that. I will go into my pay slips and see how much money went to those different accounts or different places and note that here and along with the dates. So same concept as the expenses, just different accounts. And the account is similar to the payment method. I put them all in the same lookups column, but you can separate them if you'd like. It's really up to you, but it just makes it easier. And then for income, I will put in gross pay, so my gross paycheck for the month, and that's typically twice a month. So as you can see here, I have 2 line items for base pay, and then any side hustle income for that month. So typically I get some side hustle income from personal capital referrals and maybe Etsy, so I will put that in here, and it's just copied over from last year. So I just leave those in here and then just update the dates and the amounts for every month. Also, you don't have to do that. That's just like what I like to do every month. Okay, so now we scroll to the right where there are different pivot tables and different summaries. So as you fill in those different columns to the left, you'll see this section kind of fill out. So for example, for expenses for those 4 transactions, I already spent over $1,000, and I know rent is a huge one, but it's just crazy that like 4 transactions can amount to that much. So yeah, I think it's really important to track your expenses. I really find it like eye-opening every single month. And then I have a breakdown of expenses, as you can see here, and it kind of shows in the graph like what the breakdown is. So 90% of my expenses so far is rent, which makes sense, it's a lot. And then once you fill in the savings and income, these will also become graphs as well if you do, you know, feel like including that. You kind of have to know a little bit about pivot tables. Sometimes I will have to update and make sure that all the categories are being included. So make sure that all the categories are included here to make sure that it's appearing on the graph. Same with the savings and the income, but that's pretty much it. And then savings right now, as you can see, the formula is gross income divided by savings. And for the savings rate formula, as you can see, it's gross income divided by savings, or like how much you are saving out of your gross income. Savings rate is really calculated differently from person to person. I know I did a savings rate video, but I don't even know if I'm calculating savings rate the same way that I used to. But really it's what you want. Sometimes people do net income, so their gross income minus taxes, and then, you know, take savings out of that and see what their savings rate is. So really depends what you feel like tracking. So feel free to update this formula if you'd like. You could also, instead of tracking gross income in this section, you could track net income. So your gross income minus taxes here as well, like your take-home pay. So it's really up to you and how you want to track it. Okay, so now I will kind of do a time lapse and show you how I fill out the rest of this expenses spreadsheet, but you'll probably, you probably have a good idea of what that might look like. I basically, again, go through all my accounts, copy over those transactions manually myself, and then, look at the charts and the graphs and see what that looks like for that month. Now, if you'd like to stick around, feel free to do so, but this is going into my month end kind of finance routine. I have a lot of different things that I like to track. Let's start off with expenses since that's what we left off on. So I have an expenses tab here, and this is really for the total year from a high level perspective. I am actually not a spreadsheet whiz. I'm sure there's like a way to do a VLOOKUP or pivot table or something like that to get those values from the January tab automatically placed in these different categories, but I do not have that set up yet, so feel free to do that yourself, but hopefully in a future iteration. Basically, I will go and do equals and then go back to the January tab and then select the pivot table, like some amount, and have that entered in. So that's what I'll do for like all the different categories, like for example, gifts, go back and click that. And I have a total column here. I just felt like it made sense on the left-hand side. I know it usually is on the right, but it's easier for me to see the holistic column on the left-hand side. So that will automatically sum up all the month's expenses. So that's where I like to do that like holistic expenses view for the year. Another thing that I like to track is net worth, and I think this is really popular in the FIRE community or those trying to reach like financial independence and retiring early. And I like to track this just, kind of for fun, but it's nice and motivating to see like me trying to aim for financial independence and see my net worth hopefully increase depending on where the market is. Actually, this should be 0. I do have the personal capital app, which I did do a review on to track my net worth if you're interested in that. But I also like doing the breakdown. I think this might be useful. This is actually my first time or first year doing it by account. Typically, I just relied on the personal capital overall net worth, but we'll see how this goes. So I will basically go into all my different accounts and track the worth or the account balance of those different accounts. And typically I would do this like on the last day of the month, so January 31st. It's okay if you're a few days late, no big deal. You can do it, now if you'd like. Basically, I will fill this all out for all the different accounts that I have. Whoops, that should be 2020. I do have December here just for like historical purposes. So if you want, you could look back at your December amounts, and I think you should have like end of year tax documents for all your accounts, and typically that will give you the account balance for all those accounts at the very end of the year, like 12/31/2020. So if you do want to fill out the December 2020, you can do it that way. I have it broken down by cash and savings, so my checking, savings, and high yield savings go in that category. Tax advantage investments, as in like 401k, retirement accounts, and HSA, and then taxable investments like outside investment brokerage accounts that I have. You'll also see that I have a total net worth, so I do this excluding credit card balances, and so it's really just the total of all these different accounts. If you do use personal capital and you have your credit card accounts linked in there, you'll know that they take your credit card account balances and subtract that from your total net worth. So I'm interested in tracking like my total net worth regardless of credit card balances. So that's what I'm going to do here. So this number should actually be a little bit higher than the personal capital total, but that's just for me personally and what I feel like tracking this year. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, did not beat the sun, but it's all right. So anyway, next up is income. And again, all of these tabs are really optional in case you want to track them. But I wanted to track income like month over month or across the whole year again. And the reasoning is because like it could change from month to month based on like side hustle income really. It probably won't change much in terms of base pay, but while I was tracking, I might as well track it on a month to month basis. And if I don't like tracking it, then next year I probably won't do it. But anyway, this is how I'm gonna track it. Again, use the gross base pay and probably do the same thing as the expenses where I take it from the January tab and input it here. And same with the side hustles as well. So you probably already know these are my top side hustles, and yeah, I plan to track those as well. Next up, I wanted to track contributions across the whole year. So really this is 2 different investment accounts like 401k, HSA, brokerage accounts. For me, I like trying to aim for a goal. So for example, I want to max out my HSA. It would be $24.75 since my company contributes the rest of that to max it out. And if I wanted to do Roth IRA and brokerage, I have these different goals. Obviously, these could change at any time, but just to give you like an idea of how to use this. And then this chart will update based on the contributions that I have. So they're basically going to update based on any contributions that I make in these different columns that are specific to those categories. So say if I contribute to on 1/15/21, I contributed $200 to my HSA. It will populate here and it will be the sum of that column. And in this graph, it's very small. Let's see if I can, let's see if I just manually change this, if it'll show up. Okay, so if I change the contribution, you'll see that the chart changes and it shows what I've contributed and how much I still have left. So I would have $14.75 left if I were to do that. So I'm gonna just take that out. But that's how to use this tab. You can, change these headings to be whatever you want to track. I also have these extra headings if I want to track something else in the future. Next, I also similarly have one for sinking funds, and this is really just to track like any different goals that I share with Kurt. So for example, like vacations. It's similar in that like we have like a set goal and I can track both of our contributions regardless of whether it's me that contributed or him. And it just helps to have it like on a spreadsheet versus like doing the math in my head. So this is my first time tracking it this way. So we'll again see how this goes. I don't even know if these are accurate based on our goals. I just kind of put some numbers in here just to give you an idea. Another thing I want to track is net worth over time. So again, like that net worth tab, that's kind of over the whole year. This is more over past years. So if you're interested, I think this is kind of fun to track. It is a little bit hard to find your net worth for past years. I went through like those end of year tax statements for all my accounts in the past years as far as I could go. And that's kind of how I got like guesstimated my net worth for those past years. So you could do the same thing if you'd like. But basically I put that actual net worth here, pretty close to actual, right? Then you could put your, 12/31/2020 net worth here too. I also have a column for estimated net worth. And honestly, this is just if you like playing with compound interest calculators. But yeah, I like to just kind of help give me more of a goal or a stretch goal. So say in 2020, my net worth was $160,000. I would just put that in here and put that as the initial deposit. How much I plan to contribute every single month. Say I plan to contribute $3,000 every month. Then bring this down to 1 year and then estimate like a 7% rate of return since the S&P 500 historically averages about 7 to 8%. So put that in. Compound it annually, and if I was to contribute that much every single month with that with that compound interest, that would be about 207,000. So I like to put that in, and then, for example, go back and then increase that to 2 years. So 2 years from now, that would look like 256. Let's just round up. And you can kind of do that for future years just to like set like a baseline for yourself, or just like a stretch goal. But if you don't feel like that'll be useful, then you can remove that column. I also like to track like different milestones for net worth. So I think it's really cool to celebrate big milestones like, hey, you've reached your first 100K in net worth. That's super exciting. So based on this example, say I reached it in 2018, I would put that here. You can also do month if you know the exact month that you hit it, and then track it. You can change the milestones if you'd like. If you want to track every 50,000, for example, you can, but just kind of put that here. This chart will track it based on this actual net worth column, so it shows how much your net worth has grown over time. And then if you are striving for financial independence, I put this progress to FI chart here, and this is kind of inspired by My Wealth Diary on Instagram. If you have followed her or know who she is, highly recommend. If you have not heard of her, she has great charts and graphs to look at. But I take this latest net worth, so this is pulling from this 2020 net worth cell here, and then you put your FI number. So if you're striving for FIRE, you probably have an FI number, or the number that you need to reach in order to reach financial independence. So just as an example, I'll put 1.5 million here, and as you can see, that means I'd be at 10% to that number, which is really cool to see. And this chart will update automatically based on the net worth. So you can always update this every month if you'd like to see that progress and have that motivate you. And then lastly, I like to track compensation. I think this is a new one that I want to track, but it doesn't hurt to see like how far you've come over the past years and how much your comp has changed. So I decided to make this a separate sheet to track. You can put your total base pay by every year and what that was like. These are just examples. And then if you'd like to track, different changes in your base pay, you can. I put like this little section where you can, set the effective date, what that pay was, and the reason or the comp action behind it. Whether it's you were hired at a different job, or you had a pay increase or promotion, etc. And this will also show I think this is based on this column, the base pay column, and it shows your, base pay over time in a graph. That's pretty much like my month end / year end type of like finance routine. I hope you enjoyed this and found it helpful. Again, the spreadsheet will be in the description box below. Let me know if you have any comments or any questions in the comment section down below. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.